She slammed her hand on the table and screamed, "Your client is lying! He forged the papers!" The whole courtroom froze as her voice echoed. Karen, dressed in her bright red blazer, looked at the judge with fake tears in her eyes. She thought this drama would make everyone pity her, but I just sat still. My lawyer, calm but sharp, leaned forward and whispered, "Let her dig her own grave." Karen's arrogance filled the air. She pointed at me again, shouting, "This man doesn't even own that land." "He stole it from the community," the jury murmured, confused. But inside I smiled, because hidden in my bag was the original deed, signed and sealed 20 years ago. Karen didn't know she was about to face the one thing she feared most: truth. And the truth was about to burn her empire of lies right here in front of everyone. Karen's lawyer jumped up, trying to cover her meltdown. "Objection, Your Honor. This evidence is fabricated." His voice cracked under pressure. The judge raised a brow, unimpressed. My lawyer stood tall, her tone calm but slicing like a blade. "Fabricated? Then explain why the county clerk stamped it." She slid the folder across the table. Gasps filled the courtroom as the official seal gleamed under the lights. Karen's face drained of color, but still, she refused to give up. She clutched her pearl necklace and sneered, "This is a setup. He doesn't belong here, and neither does his family." The jury shifted uncomfortably. They could smell the entitlement dripping from her words. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from the fire of justice. I had been silent for too long, letting her spread poison in the neighborhood. Now every second brought me closer to tearing down her false kingdom, and I knew the next reveal would shock everyone to their core. The judge leaned forward, his tone sharp. "Mrs. Karen, do you have any proof for these claims?" She opened her mouth, then froze. Silence. The room waited, but nothing came. My lawyer smirked and turned to the jury. "No proof, only noise." Karen's face twitched with rage as she slammed down a stack of fake HOA notices, waving them like trophies. "Here, these prove he violated the rules." The judge examined one, his expression turning cold. "These are unsigned, and worse, they carry the wrong county code." Karen's lawyer stuttered, trying to speak, but the truth was laid bare. Whispers broke out across the benches, neighbors, realizing they had been manipulated too. My chest tightened. Years of humiliation, threats, and her fake authority were unraveling. Karen hissed, "You don't understand. People like him shouldn't be here." But before she could finish, my lawyer calmly placed her hand on the table and said, "Careful, Karen. Your mask is slipping." Karen's outburst made the jury shift in their seats. But instead of shame, she doubled down. "He broke into that house. He's a fraud!" she yelled, pointing her finger like a dagger. Before the judge could respond, my lawyer pressed a button on her tablet, and the courtroom screens flickered on. A video appeared. Security footage from the very night. Karen accused me of trespassing. The truth glared back at everyone. Karen herself was on camera, walking onto my porch with a hammer in hand, tearing down my fence sign and planting fake notices on my door. The courtroom gasped, some jurors shaking their heads in disbelief. Karen stumbled, "That's not me. That's edited." But the timestamp and county seal were clear. The officer beside my lawyer crossed his arms and said firmly, "That footage was submitted by our department. It's real." Karen's hands trembled. For the first time, the queen of control looked like she was drowning. And I wasn't going to throw her a rope. Karen's lawyer tried to object again, his words stumbling. This evidence cannot be used." But the judge cut him off sharply. "Sit down, counselor." The courtroom echoed with a hush as the officer stepped closer, placing another document on the judge's desk. It was the police report filed months earlier. Not against me, but against Karen herself. Neighbors had complained about her threats, her late-night harassment, even her fake HOA patrols. Karen's eyes widened like she'd been struck. She barked back, "They're lying! They all hate me because I enforce the rules." My lawyer turned her gaze straight at the jury. Rules? Or her own personal dictatorship? Whispers rose like a storm, the jurors visibly disgusted. Karen looked around, searching for support. But all she saw were cold, judging eyes. She slammed her fists on the table, shouting, "I am the HOA! Without me, this place falls apart." But the judge's gavel cracked through her delusion, echoing the truth. Her empire was crumbling, and everyone knew it. Karen's face turned red, but before she could spit out another lie, my lawyer dropped the final card on the table. Your Honor, I'd like to call a surprise witness. The back doors opened, and in walked a man in uniform, retired military, my old commanding officer. Karen's jaw dropped as he saluted me before taking the stand. The courtroom leaned forward, stunned. He spoke firmly. I served with this man overseas. He's not only honorable, he owns that property fair and square. In fact, the land was granted to him as part of his veteran benefits. Gasps filled the air. Karen staggered, her whole story collapsing. No, this isn't happening, she screamed, her voice cracking. The officer pointed at her, calm and steady. What's happening is justice. You tried to strip a veteran of his rights for your own greed. The jury's faces hardened, sympathy for Karen vanishing. For the first time, she looked small, powerless, exposed. Karen's voice cracked into a desperate scream. This is a conspiracy! He bribed all of you! But her words only made the jury roll their eyes. My lawyer stood calm, letting Karen dig deeper into her hole. The judge's gavel slammed again. Enough! The officer at my side stepped forward, pulling out yet another folder. Your Honor, we also uncovered bank records, showing Mrs. Karen funneled HOA funds into her personal account. The room exploded in gasps. Karen froze, her face pale as stone. She stuttered that money was for community projects. The judge's glare cut her off. Projects? Or personal vacations? Laughter broke out in the audience, sharp and humiliating. Karen trembled, her once perfect image shattered. I leaned forward for the first time, locking eyes with her. You tried to take my home, but today you just lost yours. The silence that followed was heavier than any gavel strike, and Karen knew her reign was over. The judge leaned back, his voice steady but sharp. Mrs. Karen, this court finds you guilty of fraud, harassment, and misuse of authority. Karen's knees buckled as two real officers moved in, placing her in handcuffs. The courtroom erupted, neighbors clapping, some even cheering. As years of her tyranny finally collapsed in one moment, my lawyer placed a hand on my shoulder, whispering, It's over. She can't hurt you anymore. I felt the weight of every sleepless night. Every threat, every false report lift from my chest. As Karen was dragged past me, she hissed, This isn't the end. But her voice shook, empty of power. I stood tall, answering with calm steel. I didn't fight for this country to be told I don't belong in my own home. The jury nodded, some wiping tears. Outside the courthouse, the flag fluttered high, and I walked out free, not just a homeowner, but a man who proved that truth, honor, and justice always win in the end.